The two new special circumstances added to this indictment are lying in wait and use of a knife. Adding special circumstances means that this case is now eligible for the harshest punishment in California. If Nick Reiner is convicted, it will either be life without parole or the death penalty. Prosecutors haven't said whether or not they're going to seek the death penalty, but with these charges, it's on the table. Lying in wait in California requires a showing of concealment, watching and waiting, surprise attack, gaining an advantage over your victim. When you think about those requirements, they all establish intent and premeditation, but they also paint a picture as to what type of narrative prosecutors could actually present in the courtroom. His current plea is not guilty. He is not raising an insanity defense, but he could change that at any time. Even if he doesn't raise insanity, mental health and drug use could still be a part of his defense. In any case, even when it's going through the legal process and we're at the indictment stage and it's moving through court, the investigation is always still ongoing. So new information, new evidence could be found at any time. This case was originally brought by criminal complaint. Now this is an indictment, so it basically replaces the prior complaint that prosecutors filed. Raising these special circumstances in the indictment is typical of the procedure. It doesn't necessarily mean that they learned anything new. Prosecutors actually prefer to bring a case by the grand jury as opposed to a preliminary hearing, because a preliminary hearing requires exchanging information with the defense, putting some of the case on publicly before the trial. It's basically a mini trial. Going to a grand jury is a secret prosecutorial proceeding where the grand jury determines whether or not there's probable cause and enough evidence to move forward. It's definitely an easier and faster route for prosecutors. The family could certainly know more than we do as the public because they have contact with the district attorney's office. They also could have contact with investigators. So they may have more information about what prosecutors are seeking to prove in court, the nature of the crime, what evidence exists. That could be one reason why they stopped funds to Nick Reiner early on. The indictment doesn't really have an impact on Nick Reiner seeking to release funds from his trust fund, but it certainly could be an argument to stop Nick Reiner from getting any other funds relating to the estate separate from that. Both are still disputed issues, whether or not he actually has access to this $1.5 million. That's still an open issue that a hearing is scheduled for in September. Now that there's a grand jury indictment, this case is off to the races. There will be a pre-trial hearing in September, and that will set the schedule for next steps like exchange of discovery, motions, and everything else that's exchanged between the parties before the case actually gets to a jury. A case like this that's very complicated, there still may be 1 to 2 years until we actually get to a trial. It really depends on what the defense is going to be. Are they going to raise mental health, drug use, or some type of expert-heavy issue, or something else? The timeline will really depend on all of those factors.